Hey folks, today, which is the end of December, I'm going to do a little bit of beekeeping. Stay tuned and I'll just explain and show you what I'm doing today. Hello, welcome back to Pine Meadows Hobby Farm. I'm your host, Jerry Hanson. Today I'm in the apiary and we're taking care of some minor stuff, little stuff for my beekeeping. So first things first, I reluctantly placed a entrance reducer on the entrance, but this is primarily to help the bees keep the hive warm enough, and mainly the queen warm enough. If you look in this hole, you can see where they have sealed that hole to keep the air out and to keep the draft out. Now, when I said reluctantly, because I live in the mountains and we have moisture up here, moisture is a terrible thing on a hive. And when the bees create a certain temperature inside the hive, it attracts the moisture in there and they can't evaporate it out or dry it out fast enough, so things become mildewy, and then you start getting a sick hive and your hive runs a less chance of surviving the winter months. So that's one factor with the bees. And check out all these dead bees. This is a normal process of your bee population in the winter. Your bees will grow the hive so large because they use those extra little bees to create the heat around the queen, and the goal is to keep the queen alive through the winter. Now, it's interesting to note that a winter bee survives longer than a spring or a summer bee. The reason for this is there's a difference in their bodies. I have learned that the spring, summer bee, they are genetically programmed to go out and collect the nectar, the pollen, the sap, which is propolis, for laying up in store in the hive and helping the queen regrow the hive and get ready for winter months. As those new bees are born into the winter months or into the late fall, those bees are fattened up with more carbohydrates, and so they have a fatter body to be warmer through the winter months. So your winter bee is a little bit fatter and plumper because of the carb diet, to be able to survive and keep that heat going. So that's the difference I found between a summer bee and a winter bee. Now, a summer bee too, well, the lifespan is very short, relatively short, weeks. Whereas a winter bee, their lifespan is months. Another thing I want to do today is check on the bee population up here. And just peeking in here, I can see where there's still life. The bees are all up here in the upper box, which is great, and because heat rises. And plus, with this being a metal roof, helps heat it up. But something I'm going to add here in the next day or two is I'm going to go down to the hardware store and purchase some thick styrofoam and cut it to shape and make styrofoam insulation box with an entrance so they can get in and out, to give them that extra protection. I am not sure I really want to do that because, like I said, this breed of bee is a Saskatchewan's bee. They are, how I said, bred for a Canadian climate, because they are a Canadian bee, they're more viable in a colder, damper climate, and that's just their genetics. So do I really want to overdo it? Do I want to, like I said in a previous video on another subject, overthink it and try to humanize my livestock? So I'm going to go ahead and do it with one hive and see how it goes. Then we'll go ahead and figure out what we're going to do with the rest of the hives when in the spring I go down to get the rest of my package of bees and expand my bee yard. So I can see that the bees are doing great in here, the ones that are living. Of course, there's ones that are dead, and there will be ones that die. It's no, it happens. But the important thing is to have enough workers and that queen alive in the spring so the workers can start foraging and feeding that queen, and also work those cells to help her lay those eggs and nurture those little eggs into more bees, which grows the hives. So I'm going to feed them today. Yeah. But I'm not going to feed them any liquid. I'm feeding them this driver sugar. It's a special formulated sugar that's easier for a bee to process in their gut and make honey out of in the hive. So it's less fluid, less liquid. Now, like I said earlier in the video, you don't want a lot of moisture in your hive, and if you're feeding them wet food, you're running the risk of causing a buildup of moisture in the hive. Well, the driver sugar we've been feeding our bees for years, and this is a special blend of sugar that I've been feeding these bees. I get this sugar through Costco. I have to drive to Redding and get it because here in Southern Oregon, our Costco simply doesn't supply it, but Redding does. They have a lot of big major beekeeping outfits down there, so they cater to them, so I have to drive down there and take advantage of their supply. So I got the girls fed, and I'm going to go ahead and keep an eye on them, and weather permitting, this is a nice day. It's a nice warm day. I didn't want to crack the hive open. It was sub-freezing. We've got sun out, there's no wind, and the temperature is about, well, it's cooler than it should be for, for opening up a hive, but it's one of the warmer days we've got, and I need to get these girls fed. And if you notice, see how they're little fanning their wings at the opening? That's what they're doing. They're causing that breeze to come through and keeping that the air moving and keeping the moisture content out of the hive. So you got a bunch of bees on top, and they're just flapping their wings and just trying to keep that thing done. But they're fed. The entrance reducer is on, which will help them also protect the hive. And I've got my hive well enough off the ground to keep mice out of the hive. It's difficult for mice to get in there. Difficult for skunks to get up there. And also, I haven't noticed a problem with hive beetles in my hives yet. Wax moths I have. Those crusty little creepy crawlies. I've got to take care of those as I find them. But yeah, this is beekeeping in December at a minimum, a bare minimum. I'm your host, Jerry Hanson. This is Pine Meadows Hobby Farm. I want to thank you guys for joining me on yet another adventure in the Homestead Livestock series out in our beekeeping bee yard apiary area. Please stay tuned to more videos. You can do that by subscribing, clicking that bell icon alerts you to new videos as I upload them, and also give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, and click that share button to share our videos on your social media platforms. It helps us out. We'll see you guys in the next adventure. Yeah. Bye-bye.